Test. Test. Good morning. We'll be starting in about 15 minutes. If you're here already, go ahead and just hang out. You can go ahead and make sure that you're muted so that way you're not in there. We are going to be recording this presentation. So I'm going to our friends who are not able to join us in person or live today. I guess it's not in person, virtually. So today we are going to be going over some of the introductory information for college applications, and we're also going to be going over in-depth information on how to use certain programs like Naviance and the Common App, both of which are kind of integral to the college application process. So the first thing that I'm going to show you guys today are some resources that you can use. These resources have handouts, videos, all different kinds of things, websites that you can go to, all different kinds of things that you can use to prepare yourself for college applications. If you're having trouble remembering how to do a teacher recommendation letter, if you're having trouble remembering where to go to search for scholarships, all of these things are going to be found in your resources. Then I'm going to be going over Naviance, which is actually one of those resources, but we're going to be doing kind of a focus on Naviance for college applications rather than in the past where we have gone over, how to do college searches, those types of things, how to do career research. Naviance today is going to be focused on how to use Naviance for college applications. Lastly, we're going to be talking about the Common App versus school-specific applications, and we're going to be doing some work with the Common App because I would say 90% of your schools are going to require the Common App. There are a few schools around here that do school-specific applications, and I will talk about those at the end, but the Common App is the one that most students are going to use, so I'll be going in depth with that as well. And then I'm going to provide some individual work time where I will be available both in the Zoom and via email. Possibly we can set up a separate Google Meet. If someone has some in-depth questions that they'd like to go over individually, we can do that. But we'll also have individual appointment times on Thursday as well. So that's kind of a rundown of what the first day of boot camp looks like. Before we get started with the resources, if you all could take this pre-assessment, if you're watching this after you're not here live, if you could also take the pre-assessment, that would be great. We're just trying to figure out kind of what the baseline is. It also helps me prepare a frequently asked questions section for tomorrow's presentation based on how students answer. It's just 5 quick questions. So if you get a chance, if you could do that, I'll copy and paste this link in the chat as well, so that way we don't have to stay on this screen. So if you can complete that assessment, that would be great. Just 5 quick questions. All right, so we're getting started. First thing that we're going to talk about are resources that are available to you. You may have heard that Milford as a school district, not just the high school, but as a district, is going to be using Schoology as our main program for any type of online remote learning. Also, it's going to be used in the classroom as a learning tool. So we decided to create groups for each grade level. If you go to your Schoology account, and I'm going to pull up mine, it should look very similar to you. If you go to your groups, you should see a group for class of 2021 students. Within this group, you're going to get updates. You can see that we've added the college application bootcamp event. But over here on the left side is where I think you'll want to focus, especially if you're going for college application information. So if you go to resources, the counseling department, Mrs. Hartley and I created this college applications folder, and it has all of the documents that you'll need for college applications, and we're constantly uploading some additional stuff. So it's got the link for Naviance if you're having trouble finding Naviance. It's got the link for this presentation. It's going to include the video as well. You can find your parent brag sheet, which is a sheet that we'll go over in a little bit when we talk about the applying to college checklist. But you can find that in here. You can find the student profile. You can also find the transcript release form. This transcript release form is going to be huge for you guys because this is how you're going to request transcripts. You have to fill out one per college, and we'll go into more depth there as well. So this is a great resource section for college applications. Some of these are handouts that I will talk about as we get to the essay. So when I talk about the essay tomorrow, I'll be going in talking about how you can use some of these handouts. But the big thing is this is where you can find the transcript release form, your student profile, and your parent brag sheet. So that is your Schoology resources. And then we're going to be moving on. So Naviance is another resource. We're going to be getting to that. That's our next task. And then the counseling office. So if you're in person school this year when we're in person, the counseling office has a tower next to Mrs. Naylor's desk that has all of the handouts as well. If you're not comfortable with the paper, you can also email Mrs. Hartley, Mrs. Naylor, or myself, and we can get you electronic copies of those papers as well. So if we are going to talk about Naviance, Naviance is it's Milford's primary application tool. So you have the applications run by the schools. You've got most of them requiring either the Common App or a school-specific application. And then you have Milford's process for applications. And Milford uses Naviance for that. This is that homepage, the homepage for Milford. If you go to the shortcut section, underneath student shortcuts, you'll see that there's a 7 Naviance. That is for junior high, so that's the 7th and 8th grade Naviance. We want just Naviance. If you go there, you're a student, you'll be able to continue a single sign-in. So that's going to log you in via your Google account. I have to log in this way because I'm using a test student. But this is the homepage for Naviance. Resources for college applications on Naviance. If you come just to this welcome page, we've got the how to applying to college checklist. This is a video you can watch. It's very brief and it runs through the entire applying to college checklist. We've got a how-to video on how to request recommendation letters, how to submit a transcript request form, and how to search for scholarships. So these short little videos, if you're trying to remember something later on, these short little videos can help you, refresh your memory later on. Also on your Naviance, if you go to College's Home, if you're doing your college search, so you're not sure where you're applying yet, and that is totally normal to have not completed your list of colleges you're applying to, you can come to your college's homepage and do some college research. So you can do the Supermatch college search, which I'm sure you all have seen at least once over the course of your Milford career. But basically, you get to choose from a bunch of different criteria, and you'll be able to find colleges that meet those criteria. So if I want to stay in the Midwest, I want a large city, I want to get my bachelor's degree in accounting and finance, I would like it to be less than $25,000 a year. It gives you a list of colleges that meet those qualifications. From here, you can actually go and click and pin them to compare, so you can look at a bunch of different ones. You can favorite them, that adds them to the colleges you're thinking about. Or you can go to the college itself and take a little deep dive into the college through Naviance. Again, this little heart means that you're adding it to your favorites list. So if we go back, what you'll be using mostly during your senior year, though, are the colleges I'm applying to. So this is what your colleges I'm applying to list should look like unless you've added schools. Here you're going to be adding schools using this green plus button. You can say I'm applying to, we'll say, the University of Cincinnati main campus. I'd like to do their priority decision, and I'll submit via Common App. I'd add this application to my list, and I now see the University of Cincinnati main campus on my colleges I'm applying to. One thing that you want to make sure when you're adding colleges that you're applying to is that you've selected the submission type. It's really important for us when we send materials that this has been selected and is not a question mark. So you want it to say CA is for Common App if you're applying via Common App. It may just be a computer if it's a school application. That would be for a school like Northern Kentucky. But this is where your colleges need to be. So we've shown you this. You can add the colleges here, but we cannot submit anything to any school for common application unless this pink box is gone. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and go to the Common App. Let's see here. Yeah, so we actually, well, before I do that, let me show you teacher recommendations because we'll stay here for just a minute. So if you go to the Colleges tab, Colleges Home, you can see down here underneath Apply to Colleges, you've got the colleges I'm applying to. That's where you would find your list of schools that you're applying to. And then you can also see letters of recommendation. So you're going to click letters of recommendation. And one thing I want to stress for letters of recommendation, there are a couple of things. First, this is how you request it officially. But prior to doing this, we really recommend reaching out to your teacher either in person or via email if you're doing Eagle Online to ask if they are available to write you a letter. Some of our teachers get 20, 30 requests, and they cannot necessarily accommodate all of those requests within the time frame that they're given. So you want to make sure that you're requesting early. I would actually start in the next couple weeks, at least 6 weeks before your college application deadline. After you've talked to them, your teacher may ask you for a parent brag sheet or a student profile or both. Those are the documents that you can find in your Schoology account. So the student profile is 2 pages. This is page 1. And you're basically giving them information about the activities that you've participated in, your GPA. You're also going to answer questions about yourself, reflective questions about yourself. And then your parent brag sheet is very similar to the student profile, reflective questions, but it's a chance for your parents to share what they feel like are some accomplishments that they want your letter of recommendation writer to know. So these 3 forms that are again in your Schoology group underneath the resources. And those would be what you would provide a copy of to your teachers so that way they can write you the best letter of recommendation possible. Really, really recommend completing those and completing them as in-depth as you can because they definitely help make that letter of recommendation stand out. You don't want your letter to be just another form letter. So if you fill those out, you're more likely to have a letter that stands out. So now you've given your teacher, you've requested your teacher in person, you've given your teacher your profile and brag sheets. This is when you would come to Naviance and request a letter. So you would add request. We'll do myself. You'll see the list of teachers here. So I'm going to send one to myself. We really recommend choosing specific colleges so that way your teacher knows where to send the letters. If you do all, there is a chance. So like University of Cincinnati allows 3. Some schools only allow 1. They only allow you to send 1 letter. And if that's the case and you select all, whoever the first teacher is to submit a letter of recommendation, that is the teacher that gets to send to that school. If you choose specific, if if I had more, you could see, I could say University of Cincinnati for myself, and that's it. I always say in the notes, give them your deadline, maybe a week ahead of time. So if we know University of Cincinnati's priority deadline was December 1st, you can see it right here. I would say for this one, November 20th as a deadline. Thank you for writing me the letter. And then you submit requests. And now you can see that you have a requested letter from Mrs. Evans. And Mrs. Emmons, get notified of that request through Naviance. So that is teacher recommendations. So we've got the colleges I'm applying to lists where you're going to add your schools. You're going to make sure that you have the submission type. Once you've talked to your teachers in person, you're going to request those letters of recommendation. And that is going to be your primary use for Naviance. Schools also have their requirements for application. So that could be the Common App or a school-specific application. Like I've been saying, most schools are going to require the Common App. I would say 90% of schools that students apply to. So if you go to okay, I think I fixed it. Is that good? Okay. I don't know what happened. I think when I moved over to Common App, I accidentally hit mute. Okay, so we've got the commonapp.org. This is something that if you guys want to follow along, if you haven't already created an account, you could do this and follow along with me now. So if you go to commonapp.org, you're going to create an account. You are going to be a first-year student. I recommend using an email address that is personal to you. You can use your school email address. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you have an email address that you check regularly, talking at least every other day, and you check it carefully, then that personal email address would be better, because this is the email address that the colleges that you're applying to are going to receive as your contact information throughout the application process. So you'll create an email address, you'll create a password. They're going to get first, last name, phone number, birthday, address. You are applying as a first-year student and plan to start in 2021, so that'll be your first one. And then this is Common App's their policies that you'll have to agree with to create the account. So that is how you create the account. Once you have an account, so you're logged in, hopefully it'll sign in relatively quickly for me. We'll keep 4. Okay, so this is the main page of the Common App account, of your Common App account. You should not see practice account around the sides or practice applicant or any of that. None of the practice stuff should be there for you. The dashboard is where you can see all of the colleges that you're applying to. You can also see that on the My Colleges tab. And from here, you can see each school's individual requirements. So the whole point of Common App is that a bunch of schools came together and said, students are filling out the same information for a bunch of different schools. How great would it be for them if they could fill out that information once, and then we could require a few individual things like essays, but then they don't have to fill out their name, their education information, um, profile information, all of that over and over and over again. So that is how the Common App was born. So at the top, you have your dashboard, which is the schools you're applying to, the My Colleges list, where you can see the individual college-specific information for application. You have the Common App tab. So this is where you're filling out the information once that gets sent to all the schools. So you'll be giving your name, address, contact details, demographics, citizenship, language, everything that's kind of basic profile information. Second tab is your family information. This is used sometimes for information about scholarships from specific colleges. Otherwise, it's more just basic demographic information for them. Education is where you're going to be adding your high school. So if you remember when we were on Naviance, I said you have to match your Common App school or your Common App to your Naviance account in order for us to send anything. So there are a few things in your Common App that you have to have completed in order to do that. This is the first one. You have to have Milford High School listed as your most recent secondary or high school. So you'll add that here. I'm gonna go ahead and do it this way. I have location on my computer, so it automatically pulled it up, but you can also search by high school name or zip code. So I'm going to select Milford High School. Now I've got it added, and that way it's on that information. You have to complete all of this stuff here, and then when you hit continue, you should see a check mark next to the current or most recent high school. Once you have that check mark, you're going to go to the My Colleges tab. You can pick any of your schools. It doesn't have to be the first one. You go to the recommenders in FERPA, and you complete the release authorization. So you check, sign, check. You can either waive or not waive your right to review all recommendations and supporting documents. If you waive your right, that means that we can send them. There's no other steps. You're not going to have to give additional approval or request later on. I almost always tell students to waive only because if you don't waive, that means that colleges are going to get a notification that they can't see it until you've reviewed that recommendation letter. Most colleges are going to want a recommendation letter that hasn't been edited by the student. So it's up to you. You can choose either one, but you select, you sign. I don't think I'm going to actually be able to complete this, but we'll try it and see what happens. Maybe if I could spell my own name. And then we'll date it. It's 2020. Save and close. Oh, it worked. Nice. So I get a check mark for recommenders in FERPA. I've got a check mark for current or most recent secondary school. I'm going to go back to my Naviance account. I need to double check my profile information here. 2001. Okay. Let me see. You guys will be able to, at this point, match your accounts. So you'll click Match Accounts. You'll put in your Common App email address and the date of birth, which I put in as 2001, I think. Okay, yeah, so my test student does not match up with my Common App, but you guys will be fine. Once you click that match account, you'll put in your Common App email address. Your date of birth should pop up automatically. You'll hit match accounts, and then instead of having this red box, you will have a green one that says your accounts have been matched. And you can look at, if you get a matching error, it could give you some information here, but we can also, that's something that we can go over together, either during an individual appointment or even later on during the individual work time here. So that is how you match your Common App and your Naviance account. So from there, once you've had them matched, you just go ahead and you start filling out the Common App. You go through and complete each section. Once you have a green check mark next to each section, that means that you've completed it. The Common App is done once there's a green check mark next to each section. Then you're going to get to your My Colleges tab and you're going to complete the individual requirements for each school. So like, for example, Miami has specific questions that they want to know that are about Miami. You'll complete those. Once you complete those with all green check marks and you have green check, green check, green check, you can submit your application. There's this fun thing that happens once your application is submitted. A bunch of confetti comes raining down on your computer screen. It is very clear that you have submitted your application and are complete. So once you have that, you'll know that you've submitted your application. Okay, so that was kind of a quick run through of resources, Naviance, Common App. If we were in person right now, we would be making sure that everyone's Common App account was created okay, that the matching of the Naviance accounts had happened. I can't necessarily do that in this setting, but if any of you guys have questions that you want to send through chat, let's take a minute before we move on to answer some of those. So if you have any questions, you want to send them through chat, you can do that. Year of entry on the, and Fallon, correct me if I'm wrong, but year of entry, so if you're at the Common App tab and you're on your education tab, they're asking for the date of entry. That is to Milford High School. For you guys, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, that would be 2017, August of 2017. This is from last year, so August of 2017 would be the date of entry there to the high school. Okay, so teachers do know to submit letters of recommendation through Naviance. It's a process that we've been using for several years. So once you've talked to them in person and you request the letter on Naviance, they'll be expecting that Naviance request because that is how they have submitted letters of recommendation for the last several years. Rylan, I see that your Naviance account isn't working. I'm going to try to figure that out. If your Naviance account isn't working, will you please send me an email so I can take a look at that? Graduating class size. I'm going to look at graduating class size right now just to see if it's changed at all since I last pulled a transcript. Graduating class size for you all is going to be 524 students. Okay, so again, if you're not able to log into your Naviance, make sure you're sending me an email. Looking at this, so the Naviance and Common App accounts have different deadlines for applications. Yeah, so Naviance will default to regular decision. To be honest, those deadlines are most important from the school's website. So Naviance has the lists of deadlines, but that is more just a reminder for you. That is not the end all be all. You need to know the college's deadlines based on what they provide on their website. Um, so you can change it in Naviance or you can leave it, but you just need to be aware of what deadline you're going for. So to talk about deadlines a little bit, because that's actually a great thing to cover. So if you're on your colleges I'm applying to list, you can see the different uh, deadlines here. You can always edit. Um, oh, I guess yeah. Here we go. So you can always edit the app type, but make sure that you're double checking on UC. Like for example, for this one, make sure you're double checking on UC's website that that is their deadline. There are a few different deadlines that um, you'll be able to see. There's going to be a regular decision, which is that school's just general decision deadline. There's sometimes an early action or priority decision deadline. I want to make sure that you pay attention to those because a lot of times the colleges that are providing scholarships, like merit-based scholarships, that early action or priority deadline is going to be the deadline for those scholarships. There's also early decision. Early decision is a binding contract with that school. That means if you apply early decision and you get in, you are locked into going to that school. So those are the three main deadline types. I see some questions coming in here. So if Common App does not have your college in its search, you will want to go to the college's website. So for example, Northern Kentucky University does not participate in Common App, so you would not find them in Common App search. You would have to go to Northern Kentucky's website and they will have a link to their application for you. Oh gosh, schedules, when will they be released so we can put in our courses for next year? At this time, I don't have that information. I know that they are working fast and furious trying to get that completed because we have to make, corrections to it to get them out before school starts. So I'm hoping in the next week and a half we'll be able to provide those schedules, but I don't have that information for sure. So now that we've kind of gone over the basics of Naviance and Common App, I'm going to pull up our applying to college checklist. Um, I was just looking and I don't see that it's actually, oh, that's not what we need. Don't, here we go. So I'm going to pull up our applying to college checklist. That way we can go over it. And now looking at this, you should be able to see some things that make a lot more sense than they did just the first time that you looked at it. So this applying to college checklist is kind of the rundown of Milford's processes for applying to college. So it starts off with getting your student profile and parent brag sheet. Again, those are your Schoology resources. Getting those completed so that way you can get started on your letter of recommendation requests. You'll log into Naviance. You should be able to just log in with your school account. Those of you who are having trouble, make sure that you sent me emails. I see a few have come through. I'm going to have Mrs. Naylor help me out with that. GPA scale reporting just came through that question. So what does it mean by GPA scale reporting? It's a drop down 4 to 9. We report our GPA on a 4.0 scale. Students can obviously have higher than a 4.0, but our scale is a 4.0 scale. So applying to college checklist. So you log into Naviance, you can search your colleges. You're going to ask your teachers for recommendation letters. Once you've completed your application, so once you've completed your Common App, you have green check marks all the way down. You have green check marks all the way down. That is when you're going to come to the counseling office and submit your transcript request form. And you're going to want to submit one transcript request form for each school. Because we're kind of a combination of in-person and online, and some people aren't comfortable with paper, we are going to allow students to submit their transcript request form via email to Mrs. Naylor. So you can scan and email your transcript request form to her. We are asking that you do not consider your transcript request form submitted until you receive a confirmation email back from her. Every year we get, well, we have 524 students in the senior class. Let's say 400 of those students apply to at least 2 colleges. That's 800 transcript request forms, and that's on the low end I've had. So make sure that you receive a confirmation email back from Mrs. Naylor if you choose to email your transcript request form in. So that is the last step of your college process, is that transcript request form. So you're going to follow, complete your application and then submit that, and you'll be all set there. All right. So that is the basics of completing your college process, college application process. Again, Naviance is going to be your primary application tool. You're going to add all the colleges that you're applying to here, regardless of whether they're Common App. So, for example, UC is a Common App school, but if you're also applying to a school like Northern Kentucky, direct to the institution, you can add that, and they will list it there. So you can see that's not a Common App school. Okay, anyone else have any questions that you want to send to chat? Okay, I'm going to go over some of our tips here. So here's some tips that I have. These are specific to Common App, but honestly, you could apply them to, especially a couple of these, you could apply them to any application that you're submitting. So if you're on the, I'm going to, real quick, I got a question for how do you access the FERPA release form on Common App? So if I go to my Common App tab and I go to my colleges, you can click any school. You only have to do this once. Underneath the college information, you'll see recommenders and FERPA. And there's going to be a blue circle button here that says complete authorization, FERPA release authorization. And you'll click that, complete the FERPA release, and then you should have a green check mark next to recommenders and FERPA. I am also going to be emailing out this recording to all senior students and senior parents. So it's going to go out to the student list. I'm going to post the recording in Schoology, so that way you can all have a copy of it and be able to find it even if you can't find that email. So some Common App tips. One is to be careful and double, triple check all of your information. I feel like that's probably common sense, but I will say we have had a student who accidentally put their last name as their first name as their last name, and it ended up being this huge thing where it took months for the college to find her application. So make sure that you're double checking that kind of information. Also, if your name here at Milford High School is Benjamin, you go by Ben, everyone calls you Ben, but your legal name is Benjamin. Make sure that when you're completing Common App, you complete it as Benjamin. You also should be doing that if you're taking any college entrance exams or AP exams, but definitely on your application, make sure that you're using your full legal name. Start early, give yourself time. I see that we have 55 participants here just in this live presentation. I'm hoping we get lots more that are watching the recording. That's already a double thumbs up for you. You're doing that. Try to have all your application materials ready to go 3 weeks prior to the college deadline. So if your deadline is December 1st, try to have everything ready to go in early November. That's just safety wise. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time in case, a letter of recommendation is missing, or the school is saying they didn't get your transcript, or, something didn't go through with the Common App. You want to make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time to correct issues. You want to make sure that you have a plan and a checklist. You can use your Naviance planner as a deadline tool if you want. They'll send you reminders. You can also use just a regular planner, your Google Calendar, spreadsheets. I've had students who had binders for each college they were applying to. Whatever works for you organizationally, use it. In your resources for your on Schoology, there is a college application tracker that I provided. It's a PDF. It helps you with what your deadline is, whether the application was sent, if there were any counselor reports that were needed, letters of recommendation, um, test scores were sent. It's all going to be right there. I do want to remind you, I know it says on the transcript request form, we don't send your ACT, SAT scores. You have to send those directly from the testing organization. I don't have an ACT account anymore, but if you log on to your account, you should be able to find it there. If not, let me know and I can see if I can help you, maybe through a screen share to help you find it. So make sure you're doing that early. So there is a limit to extracurriculars you can provide on the Common App. So if you're on your Common App page, I know that some students go in and they plan to, here it is. Okay, so I know that some students, when they go in and they go to the activities section, they're ready to list everything and anything that they can find. You can add up to 10 activities in this section, and that is the limit, hard 10. So when you're doing those activities, when you're choosing the activities, make sure you're choosing the ones that you are most passionate and or have been committed to for a good length of time. So make sure that you're choosing the ones that are important to you. Talking to our OSU rep over the years, if you have a part-time job, that activity section is a great place to put part-time jobs. They actually look for students who have been employed because it shows that they have time management skills. Leadership experiences are a great place to put there. Basically anything that you think will support you. Having only 10 spots, you want to make sure you're choosing the ones that mean the most to you. For recommendation letters, we really recommend that those letters come from an adult who has worked with you in some capacity. So either in your extracurriculars, coaching, a pastor, youth leader, or during your academic career, a teacher that you've had for at least a full semester class that has been your teacher. We as counselors and there are principals that can write letters for you, and we're happy to do that. But if we haven't worked with you one-on-one or in a classroom capacity, we might not be able to give you as detailed of a letter as someone who has done that. So we want to make sure that you're selecting people for your letters that can speak to you more individually as a person and student. So school-specific applications, that would be separate. So not all schools, like we've talked about, participate in the Common App. You will use Naviance and the school websites to determine whether you need to submit a school-specific application. Same tips apply. You're going to be careful. You're going to be detailed. You want to make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time. But you just have to do that from whatever that school's application. Yes, the slideshow is linked in the Schoology group. You just have to make sure you do that for each school's application. Okay, so here's another space where I would stop and do individual work time during the boot camp, because we would be having lots of corrections. So we've got like you guys probably have seen that we've had some issues with Naviance login. So this is where I'm I'm going to pause the presentation. I'm going to give you guys a minute to go ahead and, if you haven't already, log on to Naviance, get your Common App started. I'm still going to be here. You can still submit questions, but I'm going to be taking a look at some of the errors and seeing if I can help some of these students. I'm going to stop the recording because that covers the presentation portion. And we will put together a list of frequently asked questions from the chat to include in tomorrow's video. So that way, oh, sorry, I sent that privately. So that way, even our not live participants can hear some of the questions that are being asked. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself for just a second while I start working on some of these issues. But if you want to send questions, send them through chat. I'm still here. I'm just going to start working on some of these Naviance issues so I can help get started. So now's a good time to start working through Naviance and Common App. Typically, students have questions coming up when they're in Common App on different of the sections of the profile and that type of thing. Class rank should be on your transcript. The official class rank does not get decided until usually like a week or two out from graduation, based on grades and how people are doing. Class rank reporting, I need to